Hi guys, this is 7-2 day 1. How to find x and kind of some of our more simple diagrams for complementary, supplementary, and vertical angles. Okay, complementary means they add up to 90 degrees. So if I know this angle is x, I don't know that one yet, but this one is 72. And I see my square in the corner to indicate 90 degrees, then I know that x plus 72 would be 90. So if I want to know what x is, I'm just going to work backwards. 90 minus 72 equals 18. I also highly encourage you to label your diagrams. It's something my geometry teacher in 10th grade taught me back when I was a kid, and it really helped me in geometry as a 10th grader, and it also has helped my students doing geometry. Okay, in the next diagram we're going to kind of go down here. This angle is labeled with an M, and this angle is labeled with 37. So M plus 37 would be 90. So working backwards, 90 minus 37 is 53. And again, go to the diagram and label it. Okay, this diagram over here. Now we have some extra stuff in here. We have this line over here, which really doesn't mean anything, because if we really just make ourselves focus on the angles that are labeled, focus on what's labeled, then I can see here's my square in the corner. I can see this is really all about 90 degrees complementary, minus 46, and it equals 44. This is not labeled out here. This has nothing to do with what we are trying to calculate. We don't need to worry about it. It's just there to trick you. Here again, we'll focus on what's labeled. The N is labeled. The 65 is labeled. And if we focus on what's labeled, then I can see my square in the corner, I can see my 90 degree angle. So 90 take away 65 is 25. On your homework, making sure you are writing down your subtraction. You can do it on a calculator if you want, but you need to write down that you did it. Anything you type into the calculator must be written down. Okay, supplementary. Supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. Same idea, guys. I have an angle that's labeled with T and an angle that's labeled with 132. If I knew what T was and I added it to the 132, it would have to be 180. So if I go backwards, 180 minus 132, I would get 48. Okay. Now you don't have to use highlighter, you can use an arc. And what you'll find is if you arc your angles and you make a half a circle, that's another visual cue that you're making supplementary angles. So that's again just 180 minus 77 equals 103. And I will highly encourage you, again, label the diagram. Alright, this diagram down here in the bottom corner, it looks more complex than the first two because it has this line here, down here, pointing down. But these angles aren't labeled. So again, if I draw my, my arcs, and I'm making a half circle with those arcs, that tells me 180 minus 128 equals 52. Okay, we can ignore this line. We can ignore that angle, we can ignore that angle. Those don't matter. All right, just focus on what is labeled. This diagram, the last one, also lots more in this diagram than we really need to focus on. The only thing they're asking is, what's angle G? And the only thing they're telling us is that this is 63. So all the rest of this diagram here is not meaningful yet. It will be, but it's not right now. All right, we drew that half circle with the arcs. So again, that's 180 minus 63, and I get 117 degrees. Okay, vertical angles. Vertical angles are across from each other. Okay, so I've got this angle over here, 62 degrees. And I'm going to color in the other one the exact same color. Remember color coding, we talked about this in class. When I color code angles, if they're the same color, it means they are congruent. Congruent is our geometry word for equal. So guys, if you blink, you're going to miss this. If this angle is 62, then x is 62. No math to be done, no subtracting, just label it the same as what the other one is. 123 is labeled over here, and x is labeled over here. And here again, if one of these is 123 and you're talking about the angle directly across from it for intersecting lines, it's exactly the same. They're exactly the same. Now, as a matter of interest, we can actually figure out these other two angles that are not labeled. If I knew one, the other one would be exactly the same. And if I arc this one and I arc this one, that makes my half circle. So if I wanted to know this top angle, I could just say 180 minus 62 is 118. And since I know that one's 118, this one down here is also 118 because they're vertical. All right, if I arc this angle and I arc this angle, I get that half circle with my arcing. So 180 minus 123 is 57. And if this side's 57, this side's 57. Okay, one more thing. All right, there's probably, I think there's one on your homework like this. Straight line. Not this exact problem, but something similar to it, I think. And let's say this has an x in it, and this one is, I don't know, 28 degrees, and this one is 72 degrees. And you're trying to find x. Okay, well, let's arc out what's labeled. Arc, arc, and arc. And it ended up making that half circle shape. So that means I'm starting at 180. But instead of just subtracting out 72, I'm also going to subtract out 28. I have two angles I have to subtract out so that I can figure out what x is.
Excuse the interruption, Erica Wall.
And my answer is 80. Okay guys, thanks a lot. See you next time.